Welcome, my name is Natasha and I will be guiding you through your practice today. We'll be focusing mostly on hip openers and twisting. And I invite you to find a comfortable seat so you can take a seated meditation, sukhasana, you can lie down or child's pose and get comfortable. And I'd like to start the practice by inviting you to move into a space of karma. And so we're in a time where many of us are giving needlessly to others. And so karma is the act of service without expectation to receive. And so allow your practice to come from a state of karma. And so you can energetically share your practice with those in need, those who need the practice. You can share your breath, your patience, your dropping in, your settling. And so before we even begin to move, you take these first few moments of your practice to check in with where you're at and how you're feeling. So your shoulders can draw down your back, whether you're lying down in child's pose or you're seated. And start to notice the fluctuation of your breath, either in your chest, your ribs, or your belly, maybe all three. And there's no right or wrong way to breathe. You're just simply noticing how your breath flows in this present moment. And the world is in need of a lot of healing and a lot of karma at the moment. And so into your mind's eye, you can bring in the conscious collective, those who are sick, those who are healthy. And see if you can vibrate and send out a healing force from within yourself and share it to those around you, within your home. And it might just be you. And so you can build that healing energy just within yourself. And notice with every inhale and every exhale how that energy starts to grow a little bit greater, expanding the energetic force field around you. And then you can allow it to grow greater and greater until it leaves all four walls of your home, of the room that you're in, and let it expand to your neighbors. And with every breath you take, the energetic healing force field expands at an exponential rate, and it continues to grow throughout the neighborhood, throughout your city, throughout your province, throughout your country. And see if you can get even more expansive with your inhales and your exhales, and allow that energetic healing force field to expand to your neighboring country. And then allow it to continue to grow until it envelops the entire world. And this healing energy is filled with peaceful smiles, gentle laughter, warm embraces. And you feel that energy grow exponentially as it wraps itself around the entire world. Imagine those you love, those you care about, healthy, safe, in a warm embrace. And then imagine cultures on the other side of the world, healthy, safe, and in a warm embrace. toward yourself. So you draw awareness back into the center of your heart. Anchor down through your sit bones, lengthen through your spine. And then allow a gentle or a large smile come across your face. You can take the corners of your lips up to your ears and allow that to create some softness in your body. If you are lying down or in a child's pose, you can bring yourself up to a seated position. Those of you who've been sitting for a while, you can switch the cross of your legs and we'll move into our first twist. Inhale to sweep your fingertips to the ceiling, and then exhale, twist to the right. Left hand to your right knee, right fingertips to the floor. Shoulder blades drop down your back, and then you can take your left ear to your left shoulder. As you start to stretch in through the left side of your neck, you can let your chin tip down toward your shoulder. It can lift up toward the ceiling. Soften your jaw. Gently move your head around and explore any tension, any tightness in through the neck you might hold in any area that feels particularly good, or you might continue to circle your head around. And you move gently as if you were sharing this practice with the world. No need to push past your limits. Feel into the areas where you meet your capacity, where this feels good, and there's no need to push past. Your head can lift to center. You can unwind from the twist. Hands placed to your lap. Take a full breath in. And a deep sigh out. Those of you who just came to seated, you can switch the cross of your legs. Those of you who already switched, stay. And inhale, sweep your fingertips to the ceiling again and twist to the left. Left fingertips behind you, right hand to left knee. Let your shoulder blades drop down your back. Find heaviness through your seat, and then left ear tips to your left shoulder. And you can start with gently moving your head around here. So lift and lower your chin. Circle your head around. Find some softness in through your face. Deepen your breath. And then again, hold in the spaces that feel good, but aren't too intense. And check in with your jaw. If you're clenching, soften it, let it go. And these are tense times, but you can find softness in your practice. Unwind, bring yourself back to the middle. And again, your hands can place to your lap. Eyes closed, take a few deep breaths. You can remove your block from underneath your pelvis and make your way to lie down onto your back. If you have any clips in your hair, you'll probably have to remove them. And then take your knees to 90 degrees. So walk one shoulder blade down your back and then the other. I like to fidget in order to get comfortable. And then I want you to round your low back so that it presses into the floor. And you'll probably feel the transverse abdominis engage, so the abdominal wall engages even more. And then gently press your heels forward until you feel a subtle shake of your core. Your arms can reach out to the side, and then exhale, tip your knees over to the right. Your inner thighs squeeze together, keep your left shoulder down, and then inhale, legs come back to center. And exhale, take them the opposite direction. So tip to the left, bring them to hover, and then you allow your inhale to bring you back to center. You can do that 4 more times, and if you want an added challenge, lift your arms from the floor and hug yourself. It's ridiculously hard. Some of you will try it and just take your arms back out to the side. So typically your legs will drop where your core is weakest, and then your arms will most likely need to come out to the side. So 3 more, knees to the right on the exhale, inhale to center, and then to the left. And so if you're giving yourself a hug, you're not separating the legs to lift the knees to center, they're engaged. Otherwise your arms come back out to the side. And then 1 more here. And once you're back to center, take your left leg along the floor, tuck your right knee in toward your chest. Tip the back of your pelvis down toward the floor and then pull the right knee as close to your chest as you can. Sometimes I like to take the leg wide of the ribs if the hip flexors are pinchy or tight. Just frees up a little bit of space in through the hip. And then draw your leg back to center and switch sides. Left knee tucks in, right leg extends straight along the floor. Pull the knee as close to the belly as you can as your sit bones press to the floor. Same thing, the left knee can open wide to create a little more space for the hips. And then your knee comes to center. You can hold on to the backs of your legs, and you might roll off to one side if you need support. Otherwise, we're gonna roll up and down the spine to come into Navasana boat pose. So you can lift your head and roll forward and backward until you come up onto your sit bones. You might need to adjust so that your sit bones are on the floor. You hold onto the backs of your legs. Some of you will keep your tiptoes on the earth, shoulder blades draw down your back, and then if it's not too much, you lift your toes. I want you to stay on your sit bones rather than rounding the back and coming more onto the tailbone. If this happens, the feet come to the floor, you adjust so that you're on your sit bones. Your core will work harder if you're on your sit bones, and then your feet lift. So you can lift your feet to any extension that is comfortable. Holding onto your legs makes this easier, so you might let go. Let your breath remain fluid and consistent and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Cross your legs, tip forward into a tabletop position, and we'll move through a few cat-cows. So inhale, arc your belly to the floor, look to the ceiling, and then exhale, ground your spine, chin toward your chest. Pulse like that just to get the spine moving. You'll expand capacity to take breath in and out through your lungs. And again, your inhale arcs your belly to the floor, you look to the ceiling, and then you exhale, round your spine, chin toward your chest. Do that twice more. And then after your final exhale, you'll tuck your toes under and come to sit back onto tucked under toes. So the pinky toes love to sneak their way out of this one. Some of you, your pinkies will be too short to touch the floor, so please don't force it. This is gonna stretch and open through the myofascial tissue of your feet. Sit and breathe. So if this is a lot for you to stay upright, you can lean forward and bring a little more weight onto your forearms. And then as it feels comfortable to open, you'll start to lean back. Some of you will have space to actually inch the knees forward and lean your upper body weight back to deepen the stretch across the toes and open through the soles of the feet. And slowly bring it forward, come back into a tabletop. You can tap out the toes. And then we'll go the other way. So you're gonna make little fists with your feet and then sit back onto your toes once again. Pardon me. This one is typically more intense than the first, so if you need to come down onto your forearms, stay low. I like to rest my thumbs on my third eye. You can set it up in any way that feels good. And then hands walk up your thighs. And so this is another one of those postures where you don't need to take it any deeper than you're willing to go. And as we're practicing from a state of karma, you would be just as kind and gentle to yourself in this posture as you would be to your neighbor. Last breath here. And then come forward, wiggle out your toes. And then we'll sit back down for a moment again. So you can come back into a cross-legged position. I like to do Virasana Hero's pose, so sitting on the heels. I know that that's not accessible if you've got knee issues or tight ankles. You can sit on a block, or again, just cross-legged is perfectly okay. You're going to take your arms straight out in front of you and start to open and close your hands. So this is going to start to strengthen through the forearms to stabilize in through the wrist, which is really nice when you're working a practice with a lot of vinyasas, a lot of downward facing dogs, if you're working toward perfecting handstands. And so the longer you do this, the harder it becomes. You can take your arms wide. And remember to breathe. So find softness in through your jaw. See if you can allow your inhales and your exhales to flow consistently in and out through your nose. And we'll do this for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And shake out the wrists. And then come back into a tabletop position. Spread your palms nice and wide. So I personally find tabletop to be a pretty big culprit for being a lot of work on the wrists. So I want you to get stronger through your fingertips. Let your shoulders come slightly past your wrists. And then think of lifting the finger pads so you press more through the center of the hand. So the finger pads won't actually lift, but just by micromillimeter lifting them, it strengthens the palm of your hands. Lift your belly button toward your spine and lift your left knee out to the left. 5 times circle that leg so that you lubricate and begin to open in through the hip joint. If you're spending a lot of time at home sitting around these days, this is a really good way to open through the hips. And then you go 5 circles the opposite direction. Make sure your core stays engaged, so belly button toward your spine. And then once you're done your 5, lift that knee to 90 degrees, and then extend the leg out to the left for 5, 4. It's really common for the glute to cramp here, so the foot comes down. If the glute cramps a lot, you can shake the leg out to release the cramp. Your toes are gonna extend out to the left and point the same direction as the fingertips. Keep that lift through your belly button, and then this leg is in line with your hip, and your hands will crawl over toward the pinky toe edge of the foot. You'll feel a stretch out through the outside of the ankle, up through the shin and the calf. And then if you have the space, your hands can grab a hold of the pinky toe edge of your foot, and you can bow your nose toward your shin. That might be too much. You might even work more of a sideways leg extended child's pose. So there's a few options. Give your body what it needs and take 2 more breaths. Remember, this is a karma practice for yourself. And then your hands will walk back to center. And then step that left knee in. You might need to adjust your stance so that you can switch sides. And then your right leg lifts to the right, or opposite side if you already did that. And then 5 circles in one direction. You're wanting your circles to be as big and wide as possible, and then you go 5 circles the opposite direction. Then once you're done your 5, you lift that knee up and extend your right leg straight for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, you might need to shake the leg out if it cramped. And then right leg extends out to the right. Keep that slight lift of your belly button so your core is engaged. You stabilize. And then that prevents you from dumping into the low back. Hands will crawl over toward the pinky toe edge of your right foot. You're pressing through the outside of the foot as you stretch up through the side of your leg, and then maybe your hand grabs a hold of the foot as you bow your nose toward your shin, and you might have chosen a half extension downward facing dog, a half extension child's pose as your head bows toward the floor and your arms extend out in front of you, which I guess technically are downward facing dog arms. Last breath. And then walk yourself to center, plant your hands, and step your knee down. Nice wide spread palms, shoulder width distance apart. And then shoulders past your wrists. Micromillimeter lift of the finger pads, anchor through the base of the palm. Tuck your toes under and take your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Micro bend your elbows, circle your forearms together, and then press the knuckle mounds firmly to the floor so that you can melt your heart closer to your knees. Micro bend your knees, let your sit bones lift to the ceiling, lengthen your low back, and then draw your ribs together so you puff through your kidneys. Find a little more stability through mid to low back. Look to your thumbs and inhale, slide forward plank pose. You can keep your legs straight or you can drop to your knees. Exhale, lower through chaturanga, and then untuck your toes. Inhale, you can lift into a baby cobra. Some of you will go upward facing dog. I'm going to stay baby cobra today. Elbows pull back, and then press your hands to the floor and push up and back, downward facing dog. Take a few deep breaths here. If you need to wash it out with another vinyasa, if you want more of an active practice, you can move through another vinyasa or 2. And then look to the space between your hands and step or jump your feet up. Take your hands to your shins, lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, circle your arms to the sky. Arms will extend up toward the ceiling and then bend your elbows. Grab a hold of opposite elbows, try to pull them apart. You're gonna pull up on the right elbow as your hips extend to the left, arms to the right. I like to push the top of my head toward the arms. If you're tall and your head touches the arms, you're gonna tuck your arms behind your head and then gently press the back of your skull into your arms. Take one more breath here. And then just lift the arm that's on top because we're gonna switch sides. Inhale, arms up, and then exhale, you can let them swing down. And then your next inhale sweeps your arms back up, And then opposite arm on top, you're gonna pull the elbows apart, shoulder blades drop down your back, and then hips extend to the right as you tip your arms to the left. Gently pull up on the right elbow as you tip to the left, belly button pulls back toward your spine. And one more breath here. And come all the way back up. Release your arms down, and then swing them out. And once again, you can inhale, sweep your fingertips up to the ceiling. Exhale, bend your knees, fold forward, and then step back with your right leg. Right knee places down to the floor and hands lift up onto your front thigh. Inhale, sweep your right arm up to the ceiling. Take your left thumb to your left hip crease. Anchor the hip down, sink a little bit deeper, and then pull the belly button back, twist toward the front leg, and then cross your right elbow to the outside of your knee. Open your heart toward your thumbs and take 3 breaths here. Let your next inhale draw you back to center. Plant your hands to the floor. Straighten your back leg, come up to the top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold, and your left leg steps back. Hands lift onto your front thigh. Sink a little deeper to the front knee, but then lean further back in toward the back line of your body. Left arm extends up toward the ceiling. Belly button pulls back, and then right thumb hooks to the right hip crease. Cross your left elbow to the outside of your thigh. Let your shoulder blades draw down your back as you open your heart toward your thumbs, and then hold for 3 deep breaths. Unwind to the middle, plant your hands to the floor, and step up, top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, circle your arms all the way up to the sky. Again, you're going to hold your elbows, try to pull them apart. Shoulders drop down your back, and then you'll pull up on the left elbow as you slightly arc to the right. This time we'll add a little bit of a balance into it. Right toes can come to the right, and if you want, you can hover that right leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ground through that foot. Let the arms swing down, and then switch sides. Inhale to sweep the arms up. Grab so that the opposite arm is on top, and then hips to the right, arms to the left. Pull up on that right elbow, and then left tiptoes to the left. You can stay here, or you can hover that foot from the floor and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step it down. And again, quick little swing with the arms from the top of your mat. Again, inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to bow, plant your hands, step, or jump your feet back, plank pose. Exhale, lower through chaturanga, chest to the floor. Inhale, peel your heart open, back bend of choice. Exhale, press yourself up and back, downward facing dog. Slight bend through the knees, a lift of your sit bones up to the sky. Pull your belly button in toward your spine, and please lift your left leg. Exhale, you're going to slide forward, plank pose, left knee to the outside of the left elbow. Inhale, extend it back. Exhale, left knee crosses to your right elbow. Inhale it back. And then exhale, left knee to the center of your chest. Pull that knee as close to your belly as you can. And then step that left foot forward. Simply keep your hands on the floor for this one. Press down through the sole of the foot and see if you can tilt your sit bones back behind you to open a little more in through the hamstring and in through the outside of the glute. And now you're going to roll to the pinky toe edge of the right foot and then turn the left foot to 90 degrees to face the long edge of your mat. Just this simple rotation of the pelvis starts to open a little more in through the outside of the hips, through the glutes. And then I like to press through my feet to lift my hips up a little bit higher. You might use blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can use sturdy books. And hold for another breath or two. Blocks can come off to the side. Turn that foot forward, back foot forward, step back plank pose. If vinyasas feel like they're too much, you might just go straight into a child's pose. Otherwise, chest to the floor. Inhale, open, back bend of choice, and then exhale, press it up and back, downward facing dog. Pause for a moment here, belly button draws in, steady through your breath. Downward dog is a resting pose. If you chose child's pose, come back into a downward facing dog. Take your right leg up to the sky and exhale, right knee to your right wrist. Hover. Inhale, extend the leg back. Exhale, right knee to the outside of the left elbow. Inhale it back. And then one more time, exhale. Knee comes to the center of your chest. You pause, hold here. Lift the knee as high as you can. And then step your right foot up between your hands. Same thing here, you will pause. Right femur bone pulls back. And see if you can ground through the sole of that foot. And then gently tilt the pelvis back. So the sit bones are going to reach back behind you, create a little bit of opening through the outside of the right hip this time. And then throughout the whole process, you remember to breathe. From here, you might need to shorten the stance. Roll to the pinky toe edge of the right foot. Pinky toe edge of the left foot, sorry. Turn the right foot so that it's pointing to the long edge of your mat. And then again, you might place blocks or something that will give you a bit of lift underneath your hands. And then you press through both feet. Let your sit bones lift a little higher to the ceiling. And hold for a few deep breaths. And then front foot forward, back foot forward, blocks off to the side, plant your hands down, and wash it out with a vinyasa. Or you might settle your hips toward your heels and take a nice little break, forehead to the floor. We'll meet back in a downward facing dog. And so for those of you who are in child's pose, you can claw your fingertips to the floor, inhale to plank, and then downward facing dog. Slight bend through the knees so that your sit bones lift up toward the ceiling. And then pedal out through your feet, stretch up through the calf. So the deeper you bend into the opposite knee, the deeper the calf stretch is going to be. And then look up to the space between your thumbs and your choice. You can step or one big jump of your feet between your hands. Same thing here, inhale, lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold forward. And then inhale, your arms all the way up to the sky. Exhale, your palms come to prayer. Stand for a moment in Samastitihi, so palms together. Feet about hip distance or parallel. Close your eyes. And find the heaviness of your feet, which allows you to root down into the earth. And then you can sit back into a chair pose. Tilt your pelvis back behind you. Let your heart open toward, maybe even past your thumbs. You can sit a little deeper into your chair and then cross your left elbow to the outside of the right knee. The left knee loves to poke forward here, so if it does, you pull the whole hip back so that the knees are square. And then resist your arm to your leg to your arm. Come up onto the tiptoes of that left foot. Squeeze the inner thighs together, and maybe you hover that left foot from the floor. This is an added challenge option. You don't have to. That foot can stay down. One more breath. And then unwind to center. Exhale, fold forward. Hands to your shins, lengthen halfway. Exhale, bow. And then lift yourself back into a chair pose. Palms come to prayer in front of your heart. Open your heart to your thumbs and then cross right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Again, right knee likes to pull forward, so pull that whole femur bone back. You want your knees to be in line with one another. And then those of you who want the added challenge, come onto the tiptoes of your right foot. And then maybe you lift the heel to the bum. Again, it's just an option. That foot might place to the floor. Last breath here. And then exhale, unwind, fingertips to the floor. Inhale, circle your arms all the way up to the sky. And exhale, release your palms to prayer in front of your heart. Same thing, nice deep breath here as you ground through the soles of your feet. And then inhale, circle your arms up. And then exhale, palms through prayer as you extend your left leg straight back behind you for warrior two. Nice long extension out through your arms. And then take your right elbow to your right knee, left arm in line with your ear. You want your belly button to pull back toward your spine. Open your chest to the ceiling, and the top arm can reach in line with your ear to open through the side body, or it can reach straight up to the ceiling. Let the bottom shoulder drop back so that your rhomboids engage a little bit more. And then those of you who want the added core challenge, you might take your arms in line with your ears. Last breath. Inhale, bring yourself back up to center. Hands drop to your waist, and then turn your right toes forward. Squeeze the inner thighs together, tilt your pelvis back, and fold halfway. Your left hand comes to the floor, your right hand to the small of your back. Twist open to the right. You might reach that right arm up to the ceiling. You might even wrap that right hand behind your back to grab a hold of the inside of your left hip. Your choice with the arm position, and take 2 more breaths. Unwind it to the floor, and then float yourself all the way back up, hands to your waist, and turn your left toes to the left. Bend your knee to 90 degrees. You want to take a quick peek to make sure your ankles line up, and then find an extension with your arms in line with your legs. Extended side angle, exalted warrior, left arm onto left leg, right arm in line with your ear. A little less intense is to take the arm straight up to the ceiling, so your choice. Keep your belly button pulled in, left sit bone scoops forward, and then maybe for the last couple breaths, you add the core by lifting that bottom arm. And then press to that bottom foot so you can sweep yourself up. Hands drop to your hips, and turn your toes straight forward. Again, your pelvis tilts back, and then your right hand this time comes to the floor, left hand to the small of your back. Maybe the left arm reaches up, maybe it wraps to the inside of the right hip, opening a little deeper through the left shoulder. Release that top arm down and pause here for a moment and just fold forward. So you might bend your knees as you come down. You might keep your legs straight depending on what feels best for you. And shake your head out, yes, and then no. And then turn your left toes forward so that you're facing the opposite direction on your mat. And then step into a plank pose. Again, you're going to get strong through your finger pads. Gently lift them so that the center of your palm engages a little bit more. Hover your left foot from the floor. The space between your left big toe and your second toe hooks to the ankle. You're going to pull the ankle down to the floor, but then you come back forward so that the ankle lifts to create some resistance. Release that down and switch sides. Right foot hooks to the heel. Draw the heel down, but then pull it back up to create some resistance. And then release it down, elbows bend. Open into back bend of choice. And then let's take it back into a child's pose. If you prefer to hang out in a downward facing dog, or again, take another vinyasa because you want more of an active practice, then take it. You have worked hard, so I highly recommend taking a break here. I like to rock my pelvis from side to side so there's a little more room for the sit bones to settle to the heels, and then it frees up some space in through the hips. And then you can place your arms in whichever position you prefer for child's pose, and hold here for 3 more breaths. Release your arms down, claw yourself back into a tabletop position. You can inch the knees together if you took them wide. And then with your palms spread wide, again, you find a downward facing dog. Find a slight tuck of your chin in toward your chest and slide forward, plank pose. Roll to the outside of the right foot, inside of the left foot, and take the right arm up. Bottom knee can come down to the floor if you want this to be easier. Otherwise, feet are side by side, and then exhale, thread the right arm under, and then inhale, take it back up. I like to come up onto finger pads because my wrists don't love this, which is also helpful if you take the bottom knee down. However, the core work is not quite as challenging. So a total of 5, do 1 more. And then release it down. If you want, you can wash it out with a vinyasa. I'm just gonna choose to hang out in a downward facing dog. And then I'm gonna spin myself around. You don't have to do that. Pull your belly button in. Find your way back into a downward facing dog if you aren't already here. Strong palms. And then slide forward, plank pose. Outside of the right foot, inside of the left foot. Again, you can come onto finger pads. Top left arm up. Right knee can come to the floor if you want this to be easier. 5 times. Exhale that top arm under, and then inhale it up. Continue to flow with your breath. Keep that bottom right shoulder strong. If this aggravates your hand, you might even do this on a fist. Not my favorite position, but you choose. And then once you're done, your 5, wash it out, vinyasa, and we'll meet back in a downward facing dog. I like to pedal out my downward dog sometimes, your choice. And look to the space between your thumbs, and once again, you can step or jump your feet all the way up. Hands to your shins, lengthen. Exhale, fold, And then inhale, sweep your arms all the way to the sky, palms to prayer. We're gonna do a couple balance postures here. So you can ground through your left foot and pick up your right knee. Left hand comes to the outside of your thigh. Wobbling is a very important part of the practice. So if you wobble, smile. It's only yoga. Twist from your left ribs to your right ribs, and then extend that back arm behind you. Maybe you take your gaze down that back arm. Some of you will have the space to start to open through the hamstring. We haven't done a ton of hamstring openers, so you can skip that. This is a great place to stay. Twist open through your ribs, see if you can create a little more space. And then inhale, come back to center. You still have that leg lifted. So you're going to sweep the heel to the bum. I'm just moving for visual purposes. You don't have to spin around. Pick up the right foot and flip your hand to hold the inside of the foot, thumb points back. Squeeze your inner thighs together. So your adductors are going to help you balance. Your left arm reaches forward, and then kick your foot into your hand for Natrajasana, dancer's pose. So let this open your chest, let it open your heart, and then you hinge as deep as you'd like. Hold for a few more breaths. And then ground through your standing leg, come up, you can shake that out. Maybe you give the arms a little bit of a shake, hands to your waist. Find a single point to focus your gaze, and you'll set up for the next side. So right foot anchors, left knee lifts, left hand comes to the small of your back, right hand to the outside of your knee, and then twist toward your standing leg. Again, let your shoulder blades drop down your back. Maybe that left arm reaches back behind you. And those of you who want the hamstring stretch, it challenges the balance a little bit more as well. You can take a hold, pinky toe edge of the right foot, extend the leg forward. Come back to center, keep that leg lifted. If you need a little break, bring it down. Otherwise, we go straight into Natrajasana, dancer's pose. So holding the pinky toe edge of the foot, you can flip your palm around, draw that shoulder back. Right arm reaches to the ceiling. And again, be okay with the wobble. Keep that squeeze of your inner thighs, kick your foot to your hand, and then open your heart, open your hips. The steadier you get with your breath and the steadier you get with your gaze, the easier it is to balance here. And then slowly come up, release it down. You might give the legs a little bit of a shake. I'm going to teach one more standing sequence, and then we'll come down to the mat. So you can step up to the top of your mat if you aren't already there. And again, your left leg will step back, and we'll take the hamstring opener here. Plug the right femur bone back into your hip socket and hinge and fold into Trikonasana triangle pose. Your right hand slides down your shin. You might use a block. I personally really like to use the shin. You can press the shin bone forward and then the hand back into the shin to create some strength and stability through the legs by resisting into your own body. Maybe that left arm reaches up toward the ceiling. And again, shoulder blades drop down your back, look to that top hand. It might be more comfortable for your neck to look down. Release that hand down and then bring your hands to the floor or to blocks. So I highly recommend using a block here, and then you're going to step the back leg in or slide the front leg back. If you don't have blocks, that's fine. You can simply take your right hand to your right hip, pull that femur bone back, And then the left hand is going to cross. So you want left ribs to right ribs to twist yourself over for revolved triangle using a block, or your fingertips might come all the way to the floor. If you try fingertips to the floor and you feel like you need a bit of a lift, give yourself length. And again, you can press the shin into the hand back into the shin, and use that resistance against yourself to create a little more stability. Okay, gaze comes down to the floor, your hands plant back down. Again, you can use blocks, or your fingertips can come straight to the floor as you lift that back leg up. Left fingertips stay on the earth, right hand to the small of your back. You want to keep the left hip lifted. It will want to drop as you twist your torso open. Maybe the right arm reaches to the ceiling. So this is where a block is going to come in handy, because it'll help you keep that left hip lifted instead of dropping. And release, let it go, fold forward. Give the shoulders a little shake, give the head a little shake. And I'm just gonna position myself so that I'm still facing you, so you stay as you are. And then you can take your hands to your waist to bring yourself all the way up. And then we'll switch sides. So come onto the tiptoes of your right foot and step that right leg back for warrior two. Arms extend in line with your legs, ground that front heel into the floor, hinge from your hip crease, and then set up for Trikonasana triangle pose. The left sit bone tilts forward so that you can lean a little more space into the back of your heart. Hand can rest to the small of your back if you need it. Last breath here. Tip your gaze down to the floor, and you might need blocks. You'll definitely want to shorten your stance, and then take revolved triangle. The left femur bone pulls back in, so you can take that left hand to the left hip crease. Your right hand might place to the left shin. Again, you create that resistance as you twist toward the leg. Left hand comes to the small of your back. And again, use a block if you need it. Otherwise, if your hands comfortably touch the floor, great. Then we take the balance posture here. Hands will come to the floor or to blocks. Lift your right hip up. And again, hands can stay on the floor. And then we take that twist again. Keep the right hip lifted. And then twist your torso toward the left standing leg. And maybe that left arm reaches up toward the ceiling. Maybe you fall out. It's a really challenging balance posture. So just get back into it and try again. And maybe you fall out again. Last breath here. Release it down and fold forward. Give the shoulders a little shake. Take your hands to your shins, lengthen. Exhale, bow. And then your choice, step or jump back plank pose. You can wash it out with a vinyasa or take downward facing dog, your choice. We'll meet back in a downward facing dog. From this downward facing dog, you can take your right leg up to the sky, bend your knee, stack your hips, let your belly button draw up and in. Roll to the pinky toe edge of the left foot, get strong with the left arm, and maybe you drop it back into wild thing. I like to bend my knees and then reground through the feet to lift the hips, to lift the heart, gaze past those top fingers. And then gaze comes back down to the floor. Take your right hand down. I like to hop myself back to center. And then take your right knee to your right wrist for pigeon pose. I like to fidget here in order to create a little bit of room in through the hips. And then when you're ready, you can come to your forearms. If your hips are tight, you might take a block and place it underneath the right hip. If you don't have a block, you can use a pillow or a blanket. And then for those of you who have knee issues and pigeon pose simply isn't accessible, you're going to sit to the outside of the right hip and come into a deer pose. So the back knee bends to 90 degrees, the front knee bends to 90 degrees. It takes the weight and the pressure out of the knee, and then you can fold forward again. Some of you will lean more toward a diagonal from the outside of the hip because it'll be too much to bow over the front thigh. And then if this still isn't accessible, you can take reclined figure 4, which is right ankle cross to the left thigh. So you can stay upright, shoulder blades draw together, the left heel walks closer to your bum as it creates a deeper glute stretch. If this is too much for your hands, you can do the same thing except lying down. So your choice. I'm going to come back into pigeon pose. I'll leave you here for about 4 more breaths. Place to the floor, tuck your back toes under, and lift yourself back, downward facing dog. And again, if you want to wash it out with a vinyasa, you can. And we'll meet back in a downward facing dog. And on this side, your left leg lifts to the sky, bend your knee, stack your hip. You might stay here, otherwise roll to the pinky toe edge of the right foot, lower the left foot down, ground. I like to bend the knees and then re-ground to lift the hips, lift the heart, look toward that top hand, and then your gaze looks to where your hand is gonna plant. Place that left hand back down, find center, and then left knee, left wrist, pigeon next side. And again, forearms come to the floor and take the same variation you took on the first side. If you have an injury on this side and you need to modify, again, modifications are deer pose, so 90-90 with the legs, and you'll let your torso lean in whatever position is most comfortable. And if that still doesn't serve you, left ankle, right thigh. So these are just added options that you can choose to take if pigeon does not serve your practice and aggravates your knees. Anytime you have knee pain, it means that you're working toward an injury. So you want to stop, modify, take a little break if you're not sure how to modify. And we'll take about 4 more breaths on this side. All right, your hands plant to the floor. Lever it back, downward facing dog. We'll meet back in a child's pose. So if a vinyasa is calling your name, take it. I am simply gonna go right into child's pose, but you have time to flow in any way that feels good. And then we'll meet back in a child's pose. I'm just gonna take simple hands this time and place my forehead on stacked palms. If you're familiar with Brahmari breathing, you can join me for Brahmari breath. It's a full inhale through the nose. The exhale is a hum, and I will do 3. Inhale. One more. All right, take your arms forward, pull yourself into a tabletop, and then we'll go into Gomukhasana, or cow's face pose. So step your left knee about 6 inches forward, and then you will cross your right knee behind your left. Widen your feet as far apart from one another as you can, and then you'll lower your sit bones in between your heels. You can take a moment to set this up, and then you have the bottom right leg. You have the right leg on the bottom, so you're going to take your right arm and wrap it underneath your left. Forearms can come to wrap. If your forearms do not wrap, you can give yourself a hug. If you've got the wrap of your forearms, you can take this into a trapezius stretch, so right across the top of the shoulders. Extend your fingertips to the ceiling, and then let your shoulder blades drop down your back. I find this to be a really nice stretch across the tops of the shoulders. And then if you gently move your head around, it will also stretch through the neck. And those of you who cannot do this one, this is a lot for the knees and the hips, you can come back to figure 4 line on your back, but you can switch it up and cross the knees the same way. And instead you can hold on to the front knee, maybe you can hold on to the back of the thighs. And then if you have the space, maybe your hands slide down your shins. You hold on to the ankles, but you want to gently flex the ankles back so you're not sickling. And then either way, tip your bum down toward the floor. I like to walk my shoulder blades down my back. So you're going to pull the knees in toward your chest, but then tip your bum down toward the floor. And so you're going to do the same thing in whatever variation you're in. Knees pull in, and your pelvis, sit bones tip down to the floor. I'm going to come back up to this seated position. Those of you who are here for the last couple breaths, you can squeeze the forearms together, hook your elbows, and round over top of your knees. Last breath. And let it go. You can shake out the arms. Those of you who are lying on your back, just switch your legs. Those of you who know the disco switch, you can do that. I'm not going to teach it on the video. So to come out of this one, you can uncross the top leg and the bottom leg. I like to give them a little bit of a shake, and then sweep your legs off to one side and switch sides. So the right knee will draw about 6 inches forward, and then the left knee tucks behind. Make sure you're doing the opposite side. And then your feet walk apart as you slowly sit your bum in between your heels. You can sit on a block. It might be harder on one side than the other, so modify if you need to. And then left leg is on the bottom, so left arm will be on the bottom, so you can wrap the arms, wrap the wrists if you can. Again, if you can't, simply give yourself a hug. And then from here, fingertips extend to the ceiling as your shoulder blades drop. You might hinge right away. I did not cue it till the end on the first side, so you might skip it. Pardon me. And then those of you who need modifications. So you can take figure 4 or the knees cross, like you're just sitting cross-legged into a chair, and then you hold top leg, bottom leg, gently flex the feet, hands will slide down your shins, heels will pull toward the floor, your bum tips down as you attempt to pull the knees closer to your chest. And then in any variation you're in, let your jaw go. And find softness in through your face. And if you folded toward the end in Gobakasana on the first side, you can fold here. Last couple breaths. And you can uncross the legs. Those of you who are lying down, you can pick a side to roll over, come up to a nice tall seated position. And then we'll go into a seated twist. So if you need a block underneath your pelvis, you can take one. And your left leg straight, your right knee will bend. I like to pull on the front of that shin to create some length through the spine, and then step your right foot over your left. The left leg will stay straight if your hips are tight. If you have the space to go a little bit deeper, you'll roll to the outside of the left hip and then sweep the foot across so that your right heel is on the outside, no, left heel is on the outside of the right hip, and then you'll twist toward the front leg. If you're pregnant, you'll twist toward the left leg. This practice was probably really difficult for you if you were pregnant, so hopefully you stopped halfway through. Left elbow hooks across the knee, shoulder blades draw down your back, and then you can look over your right shoulder. And let your breath become nice and expansive as you ring out through your lungs. And then every exhale you take, you might be able to twist a little bit deeper. Some of you might even have the space to take this into a bind, so the left hand will wrap and come to the gap between the thighs, and then the right hand can come behind your back so that you can clasp your hands. You don't need to do this little fidgety twist. And take a few more deep breaths here. Release the bind if you have it. Come out of the twist, take a little counter twist. And then release, let it go. Shake out your legs. And then you will switch sides. So right leg straight, left knee bends. You can sit on a block if you need the height. And then left foot crosses over the right leg. And then you'll twist toward the left. And then same thing, if you have a little more space through the hips, roll to the outside of the right hip, tuck that left heel in, and then come back into your twist. And then some of you might have the space to wrap that back arm behind your back. I cannot do the bind on this side, so I'm right-handed, so my right arm is much tighter, so it does not come anywhere close to binding, and that's okay. It's always nice to notice the discrepancies between sides and how you just honor creating space for the differences. And that can go back to the idea of karma practice is you're creating space for the difference of idea, opinion, openness through the body. And slowly let it go, quick little counter twist. And then same thing, uncross the legs, take them forward, give the legs a little shake out. And then you can bend your knees and make your way to lie down onto your back. And so we'll close the same way we started. Take your left leg straight and tuck your right knee into your chest. So freeing up a little bit of space in through the hip. I like to rock the leg from side to side. It creates a little room in through the low back as well. And then you can pull your knee as close to your chest as you can while tipping the bum down toward the floor. And then hold on to the back of the right thigh. Take that leg straight up to the ceiling. So opening through the hamstring once again. You might stay here. Some of you will have the space to lift your head from the floor. Walk your hands up the back of your leg. You might be able to make it toward your heel or maybe even toward the ball of the foot. Elbows can bend. Head can lift a little bit higher as your nose bows toward your knee or toward your shin. And some of you might just choose to stay in a simple hamstring stretch. Last breath. And let it go. Right leg comes alongside your left and feel the difference between sides for a moment. You might walk your shoulder blades down your back and then switch sides. Left knee tucks in toward your chest. Hold the knee as close to your belly as you can and then rock your leg from side to side a few times. And pull that knee back into your chest. Bum tips down toward the floor as you hug that knee as close to your belly as you can. Last breath. And then hold on to the back of your thigh. Reach that leg straight up to the ceiling. Open into your hamstring here. You might stay. You might lift your head from the floor and hands will walk up the back of the leg. So you might stay on the calf. You might get your hands to your heel or to the ball of the foot. Elbows can bend as your nose lifts toward your knee or toward your shin. So your choice. You can come back down if it feels like it's too much of a stretch. And then slowly let it go. And then I like to step the feet as wide as my mat and then just gently wash the legs from side to side. This is one of my favorite ways to clear space into the low back just before going into Shavasana. Some individuals like to go into a twist, so if you want, you can take another twist, just let the legs tip off to one side, take 3 or 4 breaths. Your choice. You might just continue to rock the knees, whichever you prefer. Let's take about 5 more breaths here. So if you're twisting, make sure you're holding both sides for the same amount of time. And then if you chose to twist, it's always beneficial for the body to bring symmetry back in. So you might go cannonball, you might go peace fingers to big toes for full happy baby. Maybe hands come to the outsides of the toes. You might go into a little bridge, so feet hip distance parallel, shoulders walk down the back, and you can lift your pelvis to the ceiling. So choose whichever is going to create the most amount of space that's the most comfortable. And 2 more breaths. And then when you're ready, you can settle into your final Shavasana. So if your low back bothers you, feet walk as wide as your mat and your knees tent together. Hands can place onto your belly. They can turn open to the side. And you might take legs straight or maybe even a seated meditation. And take a nice deep breath in through your nose and a big sigh out through your mouth. And allow yourself to pour heavy into the back line of your body. And you can work the same meditation we did at the beginning of the practice as you begin to inhale healing influence, healing power into your body. And allow that to move you into a greater state of rest. And with every inhale you take, that power gets a little bit greater and it expands to fill the room you're in. And then it expands to fill the outside of the room. And then it continues to grow out toward your neighbors. And with every breath you take in, drawing in even more healing power as you share it outward. And so it fills outward toward the city that you live in, and then the province or the state, I suppose, depending on where you live. And then it fills and expands your entire country.